Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This week on the Kindness Project, we talk about swans, mind maps, and part one of our interview with Mark and Ruth Chitty from Umunandi. Welcome to the Kindness Project. Woo.
Whoa! What was the woo? Whoa.
Whoa. Oh, we're still going.
Yeah, we are still going. I'm not going to stop because of a whoa.
Alright, I'm joined by the world champion of spider diagrams.
Spider diagrams? You mean mind maps?
They're the same thing.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
Is this like the conversation we had last week where you call things pick-up lines and I call them chat-up lines?
Yes.
Spider diagram. I'm going to start using that. And I am joined by a girl who is really proud of her unconventional swimming. It's Charlotte Dames. How you doing this week?
Oh, I'm doing good. That was one time.
I've never seen you conventionally swim. I mean, to be fair though, my unconventional walking technique whilst avoiding a swan whilst on holiday was rather unconventional. It was like a bit of a lobster walk, so I could sort of keep on going down the stairs but keep away from the swan.
It was funny. I've got a video of it.
Can you please not tell the podcast listeners you've got a video of me
The swan was stuck. It
trying to
get to it.
and
he just kind of swerved away.
Right, swans are genuinely scary creatures. They're serene and peaceful when they're on a lake, but when they are stuck, trapped, and they're quite close to you, and every 2 seconds they're hissing at you, I'd pick most other animals over a swan to be sort of near. Not a lion.
I'll give you a hippo.
Hippo, you know what?
Scary.
Hippos are super dangerous, but hippos are one of those animals like swans where people go, oh, they can't be dangerous. They're too cute. Yeah.
They kill more people than sharks.
Yeah. Don't believe the hype. Swans are dangerous, so are hippos.
Sharks on. Sharks.
Yeah. So, what was your intro again?
He is. Sorry, I just deleted it. The world champion of spider diagrams.
Oh, I love a mind map. Oh, so mind maps are so useful. What do you use when you study?
Revision cards.
So, see, I can't get used to revision cards. Give me a big bit of paper, some highlighters and a pen, and I'm all over it.
I tried making a mind map once, and I got really confused between osmosis and active transport, and it was like,
Okay. I tried to make a mind map once of my own mind, and it was pretty blank, to be honest. So, where can people, or should we do a question of the podcast first?
Let's go to the podcast.
I love this question of the podcast. It's one of my favourite questions, and I've asked it of people just in conversation quite often. If you had complete control of your time and money was unlimited, what would you spend your time doing? So no time pressure or money pressure. How would you choose to spend your time?
School, friends, charity work, my writing, my poetry.
Yeah.
Just chilling with my ukulele would be fun.
Chilling with your ukulele. Not chilling with your friends, chilling with your ukulele. Yeah. So, and how long would you spend time doing each thing? Have you thought about that or not?
If time is unlimited, I would just kind of do each thing.
You don't live forever. I'm just saying there's no, pressures on your time. Nobody's phoning you up going, you've got to do this. You need to give it some thought or not?
Nah.
How long would you spend, for example, chilling with your ukulele?
About 2 hours.
I've never heard somebody say, I'm going to chill with me trumpet, or I'm going to chill with a musical instrument. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to relax with my piano.
Play some relaxing piano melodies.
Oh, you know what? As we're talking about mind maps and studying stuff, there is a Spotify playlist. Other streaming services are available, but Spotify's the best. Where they're just ambient piano music, perfect to.
When Spotify does revision playlists, it's like, this is music for you to revise to, and then I'm trying to revise, listening to this Spotify playlist, almost falling asleep in my lap.
I know, no, it's you need to be focused on the job, but then their playlist is designed to so that the music isn't getting in the way of you thinking about the work.
Yeah,
so.
I just go on the internet. I was going to say YouTube, but then I was like, other streaming services.
I go on the internet, YouTube, Vimeo, MySpace, Dailymotion.
MySpace, who uses MySpace anymore? And I just kind of put hip hop revision music, and I just get this nice jolly little tune, and I'm sitting there typing away, shaking my shoulders.
I'm sort of tempted to, as we have our introductory conversation every week, just insert a website that used to be popular but nobody uses anymore.
Like Ask Jeeves last week.
Last week it was Ask Jeeves. This week it's MySpace. Next week, I don't know, I might pick... I don't know. The Kindness Project podcast.
Just kidding.
Anyway, after that desecration of our fine work, would you like to tell everybody how they can get in touch with us?
Yes.
Go on then.
Just Google the Kindness Project.
Or?
Yes, Facebook. So you can just go to Facebook and search the Kindness Project. It works.
Now, so you're giving our listeners all the work. Let me do this. Let me take over. If you'd like to, I'm not taking the floor. I don't know what to do there. If you'd like to find us on Facebook, it's www.facebook.com/hollerkindness. You can email us at holler@thekindnessproject.co.uk.
That's the one I keep forgetting.
Our website is www.thekindnessproject.askjeeves.myspace.com, and it's not really, but Google it, you'll find it. And then on Twitter we are
Holler Kindness.
with a silent, missing,
soft.
or random H. So that's where you can find us. Shall we get on with the show and have a bit of kindness news?
No. It's time for Kindness News.
Are you going to try and break your record from last week? Oh, God. No, this is too long. Right. Okay, what edition?
Hi.
You keep on... You're making the jingle more elaborate, but you keep on forgetting to mention the edition. So what edition is it?
Professional edition.
Oh, professional edition. I like
It's not really
it.
that what you think.
Okay, right. So go and tell me.
First one. Milkman performs random acts of kindness on milk grounds.
Is a milkman a profession?
Yeah.
It very well might be.
It's a job, so it's a profession.
Yeah, but I don't. So this is the thing. What's the difference between a job and a profession?
They're the same.
They're not. I don't think they are. Would you call working in a factory a profession?
Yeah.
I think a profession is where you've got to continue to learn to deliver the service that you do. And
Job, a paid position of regular employment.
profession. About profession. So you gave me the definition of job. You've called this Kindness News edition professional edition, but you haven't given me the definition of professional.
Professional. Relating to a belonging or a profession. Or belonging to a profession.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I am a bit doubtful that milkman would come under the term profession. Go on.
And engaged in a specified activity as one's main paid occupation rather than as an amateur.
Okay, so you can potentially be a professional milkman. I'll concede that. Thank you for visiting Dictionary Corner on this episode of Kindness. Dictionary Daves. That's going to be an intro, future intro. So tell me about this professional milkman and what he did.
A London-based milkman has become something of a local hero thanks to his passion for helping others.
Okay.
Ian Beardwell's altruistic. Okay, I get that. Altruistic streak means he's returned lost pets to their owners, found and returned a laptop after spotting it on the road, and even chased car thieves, all while delivering milk.
Love it.
For one particular act of kindness, where he helped to calm and reassure a Southfield resident and her young daughter following a burglary, the cheerful milkman won an award.
Oh, cool.
and was completing his milk round at 4 a.m. in December 2017 when he noticed the front door of a nearby house was wide open and all the lights were on.
Are we getting earlier and earlier on Kindness News? Because on last week's edition, you said these kids are getting up and going to school at 6:30 in the morning. Suddenly the milkman's up at 4. Next we'll have a fireman up at 2.
He's halfway through his rounds at 4.
Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
Concerned, he rang the doorbell. He was greeted by local TV producer Sasha Rickard, who was visibly very shaken. She told him that she had woken up when she heard someone breaking into her home. Her young daughter was also upstairs, terrified. Too scared to do anything other than turn on the lights and pace around, tried to warn the burglars that someone was at home. Sasha hadn't managed to call the police. She was also yet to check whether anyone was still inside. Ian offered to wait at Sasha's door until she had done this, reassuring and calming her at the same time. Once Sasha had called the police, Ian completed his milk round but circled back 10 minutes later to check on her.
Oh, that's nice thing
The milkman, who works for delivery company Milk and More, said...
Milk and More? What's the more? I want to know what the more is now. So it's milk and more. Milk and more. Milk. That's all there is, just milk. I wonder if it...
milk.
I reckon it's eggs. I reckon there's probably cookies in there. Because like, if somebody delivers you milk, you might want some cookies with it. I reckon milk and more. Bread? Maybe? I don't know.
Lettuce.
I don't know. But the problem is, if he's not only delivering milk, maybe he's delivering more. Maybe his status as a professional milkman is in danger because he's delivering more than milk. And why are you looking at me like that? like you're doubting the validity of the argument. I think if you're a professional milkman, all you got to deliver is milk. Don't worry about the more. Don't worry about the more.
Anyway, he said he was happy to help.
If he worked for just milk, I'd assume that his status as a professional milkman might be more valid. But go on.
He said he was happy to help Sasha and hope anyone...
I'd like to find out whether I'd like to find out how, percentage-wise, how much milk he delivers and how much more he delivers. Because if he delivers more than milk, then he's definitely not a professional milkman. What did he say to Sasha?
Thank you for letting me speak. He said he was happy to help Sasha, just as he hopes anyone would have done.
Yeah, great.
I understand these kinds of situations can be scary, and I'm just happy that she and her daughter are now safe and well. After this incident, Sasha contacted the Wimbledon depot where the milkman works, thanking him for his actions. She also gave him a thank you gift. He has since received a hero award from the company for his actions.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Who's your next professional?
He's a bus driver.
Bus driver. Does he sometimes drive a bus?
Yeah, he's a part-time bus driver, part-time...
milkman.
Yeah,
sometimes he drives a bus, sometimes he flies a plane. No, go on, tell me about this professional bus driver.
He's a professional bus driver, please don't judge me.
Go on.
Okay.
Where's he a bus driver?
Canterbury area.
Okay.
Driver known for kindness and patience with special needs kids. Kindness and patience are the virtues held by those we consider good people in this world. And the former Cedarburg resident and bus driver Dwight Miller, those words certainly ring true. Oh. Miller had been serving as a bus driver for the Cedarburg School District, driving special needs kids to and from school every day, and volunteered with Friendship Ministries and as a big brother in Big Brother's Big Sister.
Oh, I love that project. Have you heard the Big Brother project?
No.
Like where you become a mentor. It's an American project. I don't think it's that prevalent in the UK. But effectively, it's where you become a mentor to a young person who's not in your family, but you want to help out. So they matchmake between kids who need a bit of somebody to talk to, bit of moral guidance, bit of support, all of that sort of thing, and partner them with people who can help them.
He recently retired from the role to move with his wife to Ohio to be closer to his son and grandchildren, who are currently living there. Miller was also recently nominated for the Be a Good Neighbour contest. Can I continue or do you?
No, I've got something to say. He's retired.
Yes.
That does.
He's retired from being a big brother.
Oh, did he retire from his job?
I haven't got that far yet.
Oh, right, okay. Because if he did, that may not make him a professional bus driver anymore, mate, mightn't it? What do you think?
Please stop. She won her fame. Miller was also recently nominated for the Be a Good Neighbour contest by his neighbour Susan Groskopf. She won a private hometown screening of Won't You Be My Neighbour, a documentary about the life of the former TV host Fred Rogers, better known by those who watched as Mr. Rogers, for her nomination of Miller. Many of you know of his kindness as a bus driver for Right Way because you worked with Dwight or you were a student or family member of his beloved kids, she said prior to the movie screening in Cedarburg, July 2003. That says July 23rd.
Right.
Bus driver doesn't describe what Dwight did and the impact he made every day. Parents knew their children were in the best hands when they left for school and when he returned them home. He waited, probably longer than he should have sometimes, for the students who just couldn't quite get going in the morning.
So he was a school bus driver. Right, okay, yeah.
Singing songs, decorating the bus with monthly themes, and quietly mentoring them from behind the wheel.
Cool.
Miller was surprised at the amount of support he received at the screening from his friends, people he knew, and the kids he transported and their families. The mayor had even declared the day of the movie showing Dwight Miller.
Oh.
That was quite a surprise.
You know what?
Coming at all.
You know what? It must be awesome to get your own day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You just get your own day. Thank you for those 2 bits of kindness news. Not really professional edition, and we'll see you next week for more kindness news.
Okay.
So this week, Charlotte, we've got an interview with Mark and Ruth from Umunandi. Sorry, apologies for the pronunciation, that is shocking. And Umunandi is a charity that runs a school. So it runs a school in Lusaka in Zambia, and it aims to get orphaned and vulnerable children living in Zambia to get an education. Their story is amazing. They're this really small little charity, and in this first part of the interview, I'm going to be talking about the education available in Uganda, how the school selects the kids, the demand for their services, and a lot more. Hi, so I'm joined today by Mark and Ruth. Now, Mark and Ruth, I don't want to get I keep on mispronouncing the name of the charity, so can you help me with that?
Yeah, it's called Umunandi.
Umunandi, right. Actually, even for a Cockney like me, that's quite easy to do. It's I can live with that.
It's very phonetic, so it's Bemba. Umunandi is Bemba, which is one of the Zambian languages for friend.
Oh, right, awesome.
Or my friend, so that's where it comes from.
No, I love that. How many Zambian languages are there?
72.
72. And is it like is it like a dialect? Is it like an accent, or are they fundamentally different?
So I think a handful of them are the same, but others of them are actually completely different. And normally people speak, so Nyanja and Bemba are two of the big ones, but then most people speak sort of 3 or 4 because it depends on their tribe and what area they're from. And then obviously if they move to Lusaka,
a different area. Yeah,
exactly. But they are really quite different languages,
Yeah. Can either of you speak any of?
We have a few sort of stock phrases that get us by. So if you stand up in front of a group of people, and say "Mulishani," that means "How are you?"
Awesome.
They all think that's absolutely hilarious. So white people there are called Mzungu.
Okay.
It's hilarious if a Mzungu speaks Bemba and Nyanja.
Well, that.
Quite sad in a way. I think their expectations of us are very low from...
Gotcha. I mean, it sounds like me when I go to France, to be honest, because I tend to get laughed at in mainland Europe. Tell us a little bit about you two.
Chris, I work in software tech in London. I've been doing that for sort of 20 years or so.
Yeah.
And what took us out to Africa was in sort of 2007. We were moving out of London and moving up to Birmingham.
Yep.
And decided that we'd go via Africa instead of just going to the coast. So that was a sort of big change for me at that time.
Not the most direct trip to Birmingham, Mark. I think you can just do it down the M1. Was it?
My background is I work for an organisation called the Forgiveness Project.
Okay.
And I run a program called Restore in prisons.
Okay.
As a facilitator. So so that's what I do.
And what does that involve?
So our program is we use narrative storytelling. So we look at how a lot of it is around identity. A lot of people in prison have a very particular identity around, if you like, their kind of criminal identity.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna try to find a way to not reoffend, part of that is also trying to find a new identity, so a more social identity, a more pro-social identity. So we look at that. A lot of it is looking at conflict and violence. We work with quite violent, high-risk offenders. So that's what I do.
So it's creating your own life story about how you want it to be in the future, right? Instead of what it's been in the past.
We can't change the past, but we can look and see if we can create a different, because reoffending is such a massive issue. Individually and socially.
And that's about making them aware of the choice that they're not defined by their past.
Absolutely, it's writing your own life story, isn't it? And I'd imagine there's an element, especially if you've ended up in prison, that it's quite fatalistic, isn't it? I'm here. This is the life that's going to define me forever. And how do I get out of that?
Yeah, I mean, especially for young men in London, gang culture, and young women, but massively young men. If that's what you've been soaked in all your life, that's what all your friends are, everything is. How do you then shift away from that into a different way of living? Yeah,
that's really interesting. How did you get into that work?
Well, my background is actually theatre, so I went to drama school, but before I went to drama school, I left school, went to Romania to work with street kids and in an orphanage. And then I got a scholarship to a London drama school and went and absolutely hated it, which really surprised me and everyone else. I think it was coming out of Romania, going into that kind of slightly crazy drama school world. And so then I left and I ran a drama group for people with mental health problems, using drama as like an agent for change and for kind of cohesive working together.
Collaboration. So
I worked in Deptford with young people doing theatre, running big theatre sort of events. And then from there I sort of got interested in prisons. And because of a lot of the stories of young people, but then I also had kids. So then I decided what I was going to do. I wanted to continue a bit of kind of that sort of thing whilst also looking after my kids. So I started to correspond to people on death row in America. And then I took over coordinating a prison there in North Carolina. And got quite involved in all that sort of thing, and actually then ended up, which is actually funnily enough how we ended up in Zambia, I ended up writing to a guy called William Quentin Jones. I wrote him for 5 years and then he was executed. And in that process I then wrote an article which then strangely, bizarrely was put in a magazine, which even more strangely ended up on death row in Zambia, in the maximum prison in Kabwe. And a man there read the article. His name is Robbie Kalunga, and he was a political prisoner on death row. And he read the article and then he wrote to me. So we corresponded for about 7 years. And he got 3 days for being executed. And there was a kind of uproar, and Amnesty got involved, and various organisations got involved, and there were 20 of them. They were all had their death sentence commuted. And so when that happened, when his death sentence was commuted, we decided to go and visit him and his family, because I'd also then by that point got a relationship with his wife. And our kids were like 4 and 8. So we went to Zambia and met Robbie, which was quite an experience. And it was at that point that we met Felix Sinkala, who had this vision for educating children who had no access to education. So that's how we kind of got to Zambia.
What a story. That is... is amazing, and it's strange how these things connect, right? You know,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I mean, when you were writing to the prisoners in death row, would you have imagined that would have taken that connection's incredible, isn't it?
It's actually a really beautiful thing for me because William Quentin Jones had been on death row for 17 years.
Yeah.
He was a young black guy in North Carolina. He horrendous upbringing, shot a man in a shop actually when he was 16.
Okay.
And ended up, so he spent basically all his adult life on death row and then was executed. And I think what's for me is a kind of beautiful thread is that the school in Zambia that now provides safety and education and love and care for all these kids in this slum wouldn't be there if it actually wasn't for William Quentin Jones.
Yeah.
My friendship with him. So even in his death and all that he experienced and all the suffering caused by his experience, the man who died, who was killed by William, something very positive has come out of it. So I think that's a really beautiful kind of thread that runs through it.
Well, it's a legacy he'll never know about as well, right? You know, it's just interesting. It's just really interesting. So tell me a little bit about the charity then and practically how it helps.
So Felix, who we met on that first trip to Zambia, before we got out there, he had started up this school. And his original vision was that it would be a fee-paying primary school. Yeah. Because the state provision for education is nominally there, but it's very poor. Okay. And there's a lot of violence in the schools and so on. So it's not an option that's taken up by a lot of the population. Yeah. And they don't have access to it in many cases.
So Mark, typically they choose not to send kids to school, or is it?
Or there might be, there might be a school where the government will say, yes, we've got schools in this area, and actually there's one school for 100,000 people or something like that. So it's there's So in all intents and purposes, education is not available. Okay. So a lot of the education is provided by fee-paying schools, but of course you then have to have parents and families who can pay the fees. Yeah. So Felix was in this very poor part of town. He saw a small boy who was selling brooms there, and he was like, "Why are you not in school?" And the boy said to him, "Well, my father has died and my mother is sick, and I have to sell brooms to get food." Okay. And so Felix said, "Well, take me to see your family." Yeah. And he went and saw the mother and spoke to her. And she said, can you? If there's any chance you can educate my child, it's so essential. Yeah. And Felix then went back home to the wealthier part of town where he was living and spoke to his wife, Lister, and said, we have to do something about this. They're very strong Christians themselves, and so their logic was, it says in the Bible, you must look after the widows and the orphans, and he said, so that's what we have to do. Okay. But they then acted on this themselves, and with incredible sort of courage, and moved from their comfortable part of town and their comfortable jobs to this, rather crappy part of town, and set up the school on the basis that there would be some fee-paying pupils, and they would support the places, free places for other pupils. Okay. And we walked into this situation about 2 years later, and the school was still running, which was great, but the economics weren't adding up. Okay. The school was getting more and more into debt, and they did have fee-paying pupils, and they were providing great education. They did have free places as well, but the fees were always paid late or not at all, and they were struggling. So we were really struck by what he was doing, and by his integrity and also his business acumen as well. He's a smart guy. Yeah.
What was he, Mark? What was he doing before?
He's always been in education. He's also a pastor as well.
Okay.
Wasn't then.
Was he not? No, okay, so since then. So he's always been in education. But I mean, also the classic Zambian thing is everyone has a bit of something going on the side. So his father was a farmer. So Felix was always growing chickens or onions or maize. Or
he made furniture as well.
That's right. He had a furniture making business. So there's always lots of small industry, cottage industry. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because there's actually huge, I think it's something like 80-something% unemployment, formal unemployment in Zambia. But when you go to Matiro, where the school is, which is kind of like a big slum, it is like a hive of entrepreneurship, of tenacity, of kind of invention and creation. People are busy making stuff, selling stuff all the time. So
The coffin business is rather good.
Coffin business.
Right. Okay.
There's a lot of it's a really kind of thriving place, even though it sort of isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people are doing what they need to survive, I'd imagine, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha. No, I completely understand that. And then, so you met. Sorry, what was the guy's name? Felix. So you met Felix. He told you about the school. How did you start to get involved at that point?
well, we went along to see the school. One day we just sort of turned up, and they said, "Oh, come back the next day." They showed us around and said, "Oh, come back tomorrow again, and we can show you more." And we came back the next day, and unbeknownst to us, they'd sort of prepared, the whole school had sort of like prepared this big sort of show and big welcome for us.
Love it. Yeah.
In the school courtyard for about pretty much the entire morning, and we sat there behind a school desk and watched this all going on, feeling quite sort of very overwhelmed and emotional and quite bemused.
Yeah.
And also quite awkward. There's something quite awkward about that situation. Especially when you look at the British colonised Zambia, which is a very complicated situation. So there was for me anyway, I felt a bit awkward.
Yeah, because there was a lot of attention focused on you, right?
Just kind of wish you could disappear a little bit.
They put us up on a pedestal, and we're like, no. This is, we don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
They're definitely quite difficult.
Yeah.
But unbelievably moving as well. Like,
gotcha.
The thing about this whole thing was it's utterly, and the school is an utterly joyful place.
Yeah.
Joyful. It's just full of joyfulness.
Yeah.
And yet the individual stories are really quite horrendous in some ways.
Yeah.
So to be kind of faced with this sort of these two polarized ends really of all this joy and singing and love and warmth, and then kind of the reality of what these kids actually live through.
Yeah. We took some school kids out there last year.
Okay.
And one of the kids, sort of halfway through the trip, this guy said to us, I'm quite confused, actually. He said, I'm overwhelmed by how happy and joyful these children are. And quite frankly, they have no right to be.
Gotcha.
It's like, yeah, absolutely right.
But you're
right to be. They just don't. They can't. It goes against all the expectations you would imagine. I think.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things, and I know your son's going through A levels at the minute, and my daughter is coming up to her GCSEs, and one of the things I always try and talk to her about is gratefulness, because one of the things you just don't realise is how good you've got it, because you live in that bubble of expectation that's been built by what you're used to, and it's only experiences like that where you turn around and go, actually, I am really lucky. Do you know, I'm so lucky.
One of the kids said to us, they went up, so they were like 16, 17, they went after they'd done their GCSEs.
Yeah.
And one of the UK kids said to us, "Oh my God, I wish I'd come here before I'd done my GCSEs."
Gotcha.
I had no idea, and there are kids in the school who have lost both parents, who live alone, young kids. Our youngest is 8. She lives on her own, age 8, looking after 2 younger brothers and brothers. Yeah. And, she coming to school is the most important thing.
So what do you... So I didn't have this as a question, but it just sprung to mind. What do you think the kids get most out of attending school? Is it the community? Is it the actual learning? Is it just having something to get up for that they're going to enjoy? What do you think they get the most out of?
I think the two main things are the care and the education. So the education part of it kind of speaks for itself. It's a school. Yeah. If you're not educated,
it's tougher.
Looking a lot worse than if you are educated.
Yeah.
So that's really giving them an opportunity to make more of their lives and to escape the poverty they're in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the more sort of objectively obvious part of it. The other part of it that is less obvious, and in fact I think is more important, is the care side of it. Because they're living in the situations where, particularly these children that are in child-headed families, they've got no one who's looking out for them.
Yeah, gotcha.
School, they step in, when they step through the school gates, they step into an environment where there are adults who actually give a shit about them.
Yeah, gotcha.
Know who they are and who are invested in their future, and call them by their name and say, have you done this, and how are you doing with that? And that level of care is phenomenal for their sense of self as they grow up.
And you know, I completely agree. It's fundamentally important, and just somebody turning around and putting an arm around your shoulder and going, "You're right," is just so important.
And also, I think, you know, a lot of these kids, that when you lose both parents, you then somehow live in a sort of a vacuum in a way. Like, what's your history? No one holds your history.
Yeah.
And so the school is part of that, because they remember the kids. They also remember the parents. So I think it gives them a sense of sort of belonging and community and self in a way that they would be so cut loose from that if they were just on the streets. And the streets are really dangerous. So for young girls particularly, the school is an actual physical safety net.
Yeah, gotcha.
Safe. And I think that's Felix and Lister and Gertrude, who's the other woman who heads up the team there, and all the teachers, you know, their level of care for these kids. So there's a girl at the moment who is pregnant. She's 15.
Yeah.
She's 15, pregnant by an older, much older, like in his 50s, I think.
Okay.
Pastor in a church.
Right.
And Felix and all the team, their fight for this girl is absolutely phenomenal. Like because that's very culturally and politically kind of tricky.
Yeah, gotcha.
All gets, you know, and he's denying it and all this stuff. And Felix is like a kind of warrior for this, and he's like, you've got to take responsibility, you know, you know, very, very strong.
Yeah.
But there's care. So when she gives birth, the teachers will look after.
There's people around her. Yeah.
School, you know, that's essential. You know?
Yeah, gotcha.
On your side and kind of, you know, willing to take up your
and again,
story.
This is a society that has no state social care like we do in the UK. So family is everything, and all of those needs are picked up by the family. So if you don't have a family, then you're stuffed.
And I'd imagine with education comes sort of increased expectation as well, like sort of what the kids expect of themselves.
Absolutely, I think that's a really brilliant thing. Yeah. So if you have someone behind you asking, what do you want to do in your life?
Yeah.
What's kind of burning in you?
Yeah.
Then you have something to aspire for. Where you know, if you don't have that, I think it can all, you know, your expectations of who you are and what you can achieve in your life become very, very, very narrow.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, again, it's informed by the people you connect with, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? If you're not connecting with people who sort of not demand, but sort of expect higher aspirations of you, it's going to be tough to meet those expectations. So just tell. I know you sort of touched on the state education system in Zambia. Help me understand a bit more about how that works. So there's private schools, there's also public schools, but effectively no education. How much coverage do these schools have?
So there are many, many, many private schools.
Okay.
So as you walk around or drive around, you'll see a lot of private schools. But those particular private schools are operating on a very, very strict sort of no fee, no classroom kind of policy. So if a child, for instance, goes to a school like that and then a parent dies, or becomes ill or whatever, so the fees can't be paid, the kid will be what Felix always calls chased from the school.
Right.
So then there are what they're called government schools. They tend to have, I think Felix is saying, upwards of sort of 100 kids per class.
Okay.
There's a problem with I mean, it's a bit of a tricky one, but, you know, where discipline gets out of control. So there's quite a lot of corporal punishment in these schools. The actual facilities for learning don't tend to be very good at all.
Okay.
I think it might be different in the rural areas. The Matiro, where the school is right in the centre of the city. So the city is made up of sort of a number of I mean, I guess you'd call them slums, with the kind of main body of the city sort of in the middle, and then these areas dotted around. So in those areas, you know, the kids are very limited in what they have access to, and also because of sheer numbers. A private school, there'd be one covering, you know,
a huge area.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that the teaching standards are not very high, by all accounts. So that isn't often literally just not an option. For the kids, especially if they're actually really wanting to get a really decent education that can then sort of move them on out into the world. Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to paint a picture that says University Zambia's provision for education is appalling. What we know is that in the poor areas of the capital city, Lusaka, where we've been, there is a huge number of children who don't attend school, but who want to attend school. So it's not because they're bunking off. It's because
there's just not provision.
Exactly. They can't get access to it. So that's the need that Green Park School is meeting, and Umunandi is meeting.
And I mean, it must be interesting being in a position where there's a demand but not enough supply. So how do you select the children who go to Green Park?
Well, so there's obviously, we always have spaces for fee-paying children. So there's a number of parents who, if you like, believe and support in the principle that their fees can also not only pay for their child's education, but can also go towards paying the fees of a child who
it's like a social enterprise, isn't it? You know, like
exactly.
So what did you think of the interview?
So far, so good.
It was, wasn't it? We're going to have more from Mark and Ruth next week, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Tis the end!
Where did you learn that? Where did you learn? Tis the end, like a Shakespearean actor.
No, I didn't.
Tis the end.
Tis the end of another fine podcast.
Of another shambolic but good podcast. We're getting a decent amount of listeners now, so I'm quite... we're doing all right. So, it is the end of another podcast, but as a famous author once said, the end is never the end, but the beginning of the end. Who said that?
I don't know.
Nobody, I made it. Just made it up. So, we have got to do plagiarist. We just go nicking stuff. I've started nicking phrases from you've got this cool little heart on your bedroom.
It's
a chalkboard on your bedroom door, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I keep on, every time you put a phrase there, I go, a fine philosopher, Chris James, once said, and just read whatever you've got on your chalkboard.
You do it when you find my poems lying around as well.
I do. A fine poet, Chris James, once said...
Okay, Charlotte Davis.
So, the end is never the end, because it's time for...
Last week's question this week.
It's very true. And last week's question this week was a good one. We had a decent response on last week's question this week, and it was we had actually, I say good. It was a bit of a mediocre response, but we'll use it all the same. What's the worst or best chat up line you've ever said, heard, or received?
Pick up line.
Or pick up line, whatever. Now, I've never used a chat up line. I've been with Cassie for, I think the official term is donkey's years. So I've actually never used a chat up line, I don't think. Have you ever used a chat up line, Charlotte?
Yeah.
Player! Yeah. What chat up line have you used?
I think I said the one about NASA last week.
Last week?
Yeah.
Go on, what NASA one?
When we asked this question, can I have some of your selfies so I can send them to NASA because they're looking for stars?
Oh, God. Anyway, that is slightly better than the ones we received. And let me tell you, there are ones here that range from cheesy too frankly insulting. So we'll go through them. First, Andrew Wibbley said, "Do you know much about polar bears? Because I heard they're a good icebreaker." And he'd just start the conversation there. And he said in brackets, "We'll let you decide if that's the best or worst." Definitely one of the worst. Peter,
how much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice.
Oh God! Peter Callum said, "Get your coat, you've scored." Route 1. John Cook, he said, "Worst one is that a creepy drunk bloke said to me on the tube, 'I'm really into blind people,' which is a bit weird." And he's said he hasn't got a best chat-up line, but he did meet Pamela Anderson last year, and Pamela Anderson used to be in a show called Baywatch, which was about American men and women who worked as lifeguards. And she was a bit of a 90s female icon, especially if you were growing up in that period, because she was blonde and at the time quite attractive. So Pamela Anderson said, because John's got a guide dog, and Pamela Anderson said, "Sorry, your dog's distracting me," when he went to meet Pamela Anderson at this, because John loves a convention, doesn't he? So so Pamela Anderson said, "Sorry, your dog's distracting me." And John apparently said, "That's all right, love, you've been distracting me for 25 years. So that was the... That was... Apparently she laughed. I don't know whether I would have done or not. And Roberta White said, "Many, many years ago, but still remember it, the worst was, 'Drop them, you're next.'" Oh, that is weird. And that, my friends, was it for chat-up lines. And I think we can unanimously agree that we shouldn't use chat-up lines in the future. In actual fact, do you reckon we should ban chat-up lines?
Nah, because I use them.
Go on, what, apart from the stars one, would you use...
I usually just Google it.
Would you Google chat-up lines?
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And apart from the ones that you Google and the stars one, would you use any of the ones there?
No.
Not even "Get your coat, you pulled." Definitely not. So on that strangely direct note, we'll see you next week.
Bye.